Hello and welcome to another edition of Unrendered on IKTV. I'm Tony Regisford and I'm chatting with Elma Jean Isaac and Safia Horn Peak. They are from the OECS Secretariat and dealing specifically with the Economic Union and integration, OECS integration. Folks, welcome, and I didn't introduce you with a title. I'm going to give you that opportunity to do that yourselves. So maybe I could start with you, Elma Jean. Tell me what it is we do, what it is you do for the OECS integration and economic union.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you for having us on the program. My official designation is Coordinator of the Regional Integration Unit of the OECS. And essentially with my colleagues, I am responsible for assisting member states, supporting them in implementing the revised Treaty of Bastille. Okay. So we give them that kind of support, ensuring that they can do whatever is required of them.
Right. And Safia?
I work along with Ms. Isaac in the Regional Integration Unit. I'm the program officer there and primarily responsible for the movement of persons within the OECS Economic Union.
Excellent. Now, maybe we could kick off by throwing this question out. What of the OECS Integration and Economic Union, not how it differs, but there's an existing treaty, the Treaty of Bastille, and how is the OECS Integration and Economic Union enhancing what is already there, or certainly what was there in principle by the Treaty of Bastille?
Okay, let me clarify. You said that there is an existing Treaty of Bastille, and that's correct.
Yes.
The 1981 Treaty of Bastille is what established the OECS as an organization. But we also have a new treaty, which is the revised Treaty of Bastille.
Yes.
And what is important, why I say that you are right in saying that we do have that old treaty, is that we have right now a situation in which not all of the member states are party to the revised Treaty of Bastille.
Yes.
So we still have two member states, the associate, Anguilla and the BVI, whose relationship and operation within the OECS are governed by the 1981 treaty. Okay. And now we have the revised Treaty of Bastille. Important because it brings in the economic union to which you referred. It established the economic union as a single financial and economic space. And it has also created for member states different obligations because it makes reference to the existence of what we call a legislative competence. We'll discuss that a little bit later. And it also has allowed for the creation of new organs, such as the OECS Assembly of Parliamentarians, such as the OECS Commission. So it has heralded those differences, and they are very, very significant for the work to be done going forward for the OECS.
Free movement is one of the things that people pick up on because it's an area of interest. Want to know what barriers have been removed in terms of entry requirements, or the entry barriers to moving from one OECS state to the next. Where are we exactly in terms of that status of free movement, and what exactly is the final milestone? What is it we're actually trying to achieve here, and where are we in relation to what we're actually trying to achieve?
Elma Jean referred to the treaty brings into being the economic union. So there are two segments of the treaty, and one is the economic union protocol, which governs the free movements of persons within this space. The treaty refers to the free movement and as a right being secured for citizens of the member states. So what we have done is put together a working group of all member states representation to discuss how we're going to implement, how we are going to give effect to this. So the working group came up with a set of recommendations that are now being implemented. The first one is the removal of entry requirements into member states. So you don't need a passport to enter a protocol member state.
Right. So an ID card in
ID
essence
card,
is what you need.
a driver's license, anything that, any photo ID
form of identification
that has your nationality can be used to travel. We have removed the requirement for you to prove that you can sustain yourself in a member state. So there was something that we did at the border that we call the economic means test that asks persons whether they could sustain themselves for the period of time
they're hoping to stay.
They're hoping to stay. That was removed. Also, we have now granted OECS citizens indefinite stay
Right, I was going to ask that. What in terms of the length of stay, right?
Yeah. There's no restriction on the length of stay. Persons can come into any member state, any protocol member state, and stay for a period of time, whether to seek work, whether to vacation. There's no restrictions. So those are the first steps.
So clearly there are no work permit requirements
No.
for OECS citizens,
No.
I'll call them that, once they're within that space.
Yes, no work permit requirement. You can live and work within the OECS space. The intention is to have one OECS labor market, so that the removal of these restrictions encourage persons to move and seek work where work is available or where their skill is needed, rather than say one country having persons that are more. I use the example of management because a lot of persons in St. Vincent go and study management. Maybe St. Vincent don't need all that managers,
right, so
but Grenada needs. So that's the essence behind opening up the borders, so we have one labor market and persons can take advantage of the opportunities there.
So that is what you're hoping to achieve. Where are we in terms of getting to that final destination?
We're pretty advanced in terms of...
How many islands have signed on? Where can I go to now within the OECS that would accept me just on some form of photo ID?
The seven member states, St. Vincent, Grenada, Dominica, Antigua, St. Lucia, Montserrat, and St. Kitts and Nevis, have implemented that provision for you to travel with your ID.
I'm going to test it, you know.
I have tested it.
Good.
I have tested it and encouraging persons to test it. They have all signed on to the protocol implementing the economic union. The other provisions on the Antigua and St. Lucia are not implementing
and
currently.
These provisions in terms of work now and
yes,
stay and
the
indefinite
work
stay.
and indefinite stay.
Right.
When my colleagues and I come in and they use their passport here in St. Vincent, they were given a stamp that says OECS National Indefinite Entry. And that gives them the right to live and work without any restrictions. So that is being implemented in St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Dominica, St. Kitts Nevis, Montserrat, Antigua and St. Lucia had some delays. They have indicated that they're intending to start this year. Antigua had actually give us a date of November 1st. We are traveling and have not been able to verify that. And St. Lucia has indicated they would pass the necessary legislation in the next sitting of Parliament, which should be this month. So we are pretty advanced in the process.
How do the citizens of the various territories feel about, I mean, okay, those who are traveling can see the benefit. Those who are not, how do they feel about this, what may be determined as sort of erosion of their sovereignty? I mean, that's, you know, this question addresses insularity, really. Do you still find that within the OECS member states, the citizens have that insular sort of feeling, or has that barrier been totally torn down? I mean, I know the policy is there, but what about the people?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that the barrier has been totally torn down. I think it is something that we have to achieve incrementally. We do not have empirical evidence to give it to say 70% of OECS citizens think this, but I'll tell you what we've perceived from our interaction with citizens as we've moved around on missions such as the one that we're conducting. Generally, there is an acceptance and there is an appreciation for what the OECS is trying to achieve by way of all of this free movement and all of this coming together. There's also support for it generally. I will tell you where we meet some little bit of resistance. It is that people tend to worry. What are the implications for us in terms of jobs? That's always one of, that always comes up early.
Is our pie being smaller?
Is someone going to come in and take my job? And the response has to be that it is a creation of opportunities for all. So that you may be in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but there are opportunities for you elsewhere in the OECS. And so we want you to see the OECS as home base, not St. Vincent and the Grenadines, so that you look for opportunities. And very important is that it is not only skilled persons who can move. It is not for skilled people. It is for skilled and unskilled.
Yes.
So wherever you can find an opportunity, you can move. You may not want to move. You may want to set up a little business. And that is a right under the treaty, the right to establish, the right to set up a business in another member state, an agency, the right to provide your services. You may want to go just for the day, transact business in St. Lucia, and come back to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and you have a right within the treaty to do that. And I think people within the OECS are accepting more and more and understanding the benefit that they can derive from that kind of arrangement.
So that's, that's the people. What about the businesses themselves? Is there, and again, you may not have empirical evidence of this, but from observation, or is it too early to say, are the businesses within the various territories, are they warmly accepting and embracing skills from other islands? So a St. Lucia business, for example, may want to give preference to a St. Lucian as opposed to a Dominican. Is that at least some of the dynamics?
Interestingly enough, I think our businesses have moved beyond the insularity. I think our businesses are at the stage where they're looking for skills, they're looking for good skills, and that is the priority for them. I have not, in our interactions with businesses, I have not heard anyone say we don't want this, because they recognize that on the one hand, we're trying to facilitate the way in which they can operate within the OECS. And on the other hand, the increased availability of workers. Imagine that now you can get labor from other member states without putting out funds for a work permit.
Right.
It is that your people can now come in, they won't be hassled at the border with people saying, well, you only get 3 days or 2 months, and then you have to come back and pay. And so that has been removed. So it actually makes it easier for businesses to secure and attract labor.
So it brings me to the next question, and Safi, you can chip in here. And we're talking about jobs and what this whole free movement thing is there to facilitate. The movement of people, goods as well. But let's talk about people in terms of free movement. Are you finding now, therefore, that because companies have a wider reach through which they can seek employees, is there advertising for vacancies now going across the OECS region, or is it still contained to the local newspaper in St. Lucia or the local newspaper in Antigua or Grenada? What are your observations there?
Well, as you said, we have no empirical evidence in relation to that. But what I have realized is most people do not use traditional newspapers and so forth to advertise anymore. So even before these provisions had come into place, they were utilizing things like their websites and so forth to advertise. But we at the OECS Secretariat have gone a bit further and is going to, in the process of implementing what we call an employment services network, which we hope to host on our website, where employers can post what is available. So persons can go in and see what is available and seek job opportunity through that portal.
So as we reach the end of this segment, I'm going to throw out a question here so we can address it when we come back to the second segment. And I'm talking about the other imperatives. What you see as the issues that are urgent and have to be dealt with in terms of making this OECS integration economic union a reality. And I'm talking about the ones that you have under your purview, of course. So think about it, and when we come back, we'll pick it up. You're watching Unrendered on IKTV. I'm Tony Regisford, and I'm chatting with Elmer Jean Isaac and Safia Horn Beek. More when we come back.